Yeah, I gotta talk about you. What's up, Michael? All right, you ready to do this or what? What year was this thing made? 2002. And who directed it? K.C. Bascombe. What's up, YouTube? This is your boy John from Project Ellsworth, and I'm here today to give you my review of the 2002 K.C. Bascombe film, Fear of the Dark. I don't know, man. Leave me alone. I'm just kind of throwing this together. The best movie of its kind since The Sixth Sense. It's bold. So this flick begins with a little boy being basically antagonized by his friends. He gets locked downstairs in the cellar of a house. He suddenly and immediately becomes paralyzingly afraid of the dark. So what you're saying is it's kind of in the name. I know, you're not really saying anything. Flash forward, and we now see that this boy's grown up a little bit, and his mother and father have now basically, catered to him rather than trying to pull him out of this fear. It's very obvious that this fear has overcome this little boy's life. And now they have emergency generators set up in the house, and they have lights all over the place. And the father, it's mentioned in this movie, at some point bought an incredibly expensive flashlight. They're getting ready to go out for dinner I get the impression it's been a while since they've done anything like this because they're afraid to leave this kid alone. He has a crippling, overpowering fear of the dark. And it's actually a shame that I get the impression that they've shut things down, more or less, just to make sure that this kid's overwhelming fear of the dark, how many times am I going to say that in this review? Just to make sure that this kid's fear of the dark is not, too debilitating for him, which honestly, given from what I've seen in this movie up to this point, I don't know how much worse it could possibly get. But this kid's got an older brother who seems to be more interested in getting this kid over this fear by just telling him he's silly and tell him it's ridiculous and so on and so forth, rather than to try and help this kid with his problem. I mean, this little boy, he's seeing things like all little boys. He's seeing things, or he thinks he's seeing things in his bedroom, or he's hearing things. It's in his closet, it's under his bed. There's stuff in the attic, there's stuff in the basement. There is stuff that this kid is afraid of anywhere and everywhere, or is it everywhere and anywhere? Whatever. He's afraid of the dark, period. No matter where it is, he thinks that there's something in the dark that's going to get him. Long story short, that's basically your movie, ladies and gentlemen. It's a kid. He becomes afraid of the dark. Then the rest of the movie, he's trying to convince everybody else why he's afraid of the dark, and that's about it. But there is actually a moral to this, and I'll get to that in a little while. Yeah. I thought that. Yeah, here we go. We got your whole classic breakdown. Here's the cover of the movie, which I bought clearly for $1.99. I believe I paid $1 for this at Orbit Video in New Jersey when they were going out of business. You don't care about that. So you have a bad cover art that looks cheesy and goofy. You have the cinematography's not great. It's a cast full of people that you've never seen before. The acting is not all that wonderful. The special effects in this movie are really not anything to write home about. But I thought that this was actually a surprisingly good movie. Wow. And believe me, it's not because of the acting or the cinematography or certainly not the effects. I liked that there's actually sort of a point to this movie that we could all probably learn from. Okay, this little boy had something traumatic happen to him when he was little, which made him over the top afraid of the dark. But it seems like his mom and his dad and his brother all throughout this movie are doing probably what most of us would be guilty of in this situation. They keep simply telling him there's no reason to be afraid, but they don't give him any reason. There's nothing in the dark, but they really don't give him any reason. I guess the only logical thing that they say to him in this movie is there's nothing in the dark that's not there in the light. That's actually, I've never heard that before, but that's actually pretty good. I like that one. But they get to a point in this movie where this kid, the power in the house goes out. And I'll give some things away. I don't think that there's a lot of you that are going to watch this movie. And to be honest with you, the only reason I'm doing this review is because of what I think the point of the movie is. At one point, this kid, the power's out in the house. There are no lights on. This kid makes himself like a uniform or a costume or something to protect himself against the dark. It's like made out of, like, it looks like football pads and like styrofoam or Nerf padding of some sort. And he's got flashlights taped all over him. The cool thing here is the older brother has a girlfriend. That's nasty. The older brother has a girlfriend who actually seems to pay attention to him. The brother's, pardon me, too much coffee. The brother seems to just push this kid, the whole uniform thing aside, as he just shoves it off as just being silly. Another silly thing that his silly little brother, who's afraid of the dark, is that he's done. Doesn't pay any attention to it, thinks it's ridiculous. The girl that the older brother is interested in actually pays attention to this kid and says, she's basically the voice of reason. Show me what you have on. Tell me what that's about. Explain to me what this thing does for you. And she actually seems like she shows interest in hearing out what this little boy has to say, which in turn allows her to maybe reason with him a little bit and speak a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of common sense into this kid. Explain to me why you're afraid, and maybe I can explain to you why you shouldn't be. And I thought that that was a very cool thing in this movie. Look, there's really not a whole lot to write home about in this movie. I enjoyed it. I honestly did, but it's really hard for me to come across horror movies that I don't enjoy. This one's really not all that well made. It's definitely not all that well cast. The little boy, the main character in this movie, while I was watching this, it was driving me crazy. I was sitting there thinking, you know what? I know this kid. I know this kid. And about halfway through the movie, it dawned on me, that's the kid from The Sandlot. No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Yeah, that one. But then my wife pulled it up on her phone and said, that's not the kid from The Sandlot. So apparently he just reminded me of the kid from The Sandlot. And this kid ain't nobody. I've never seen this kid before. We looked him up on IMDb. I have no idea who this kid is. He just, to me, looked a lot like the kid from The Sandlot. The older brother's girlfriend was in something my wife watches. I don't know if it's one of them CSI Chicago or Chicago Med or Fire or all these friggin' Chicago shows she watches. Chicago Dental Appointment. All the bullshit shows she watches. This girl apparently oh, you know what? The Hallmark Channel. I think she popped up in a Hallmark movie. Man, she recognized her from there, pulled her up, and that's it. And that's another thing I bet you guys probably don't give a shit about at all, unless you really like Hallmark movies. So she's the only person in this movie that either one of us recognized from anywhere, and I have no idea who she is. But all that out of the way, I thought this was a good little movie. I mean, it looks like they made it for probably a grand total of about $180, but I liked that this movie had like a morale check, or a morals check for people. When your kids are afraid of something, don't just push that shit aside. Don't dismiss it. Don't say there's no reason to be afraid. Don't say there's nothing there to be afraid of. Actually sit down and talk to the kid. And maybe you could be of some help and make them not afraid anymore. I thought that was really, really cool. So, bottom line of this movie, if you can find this thing anywhere, I think you should check it out. I thought it was a pretty good watch. I bought this movie many, many years ago when I was in culinary school. One of my chefs actually told me that this video store was going out of business and that their movies were all 50% off of what the sticker was. So I went in there and they had a handful of horror movies left. Nothing noteworthy, but this was one of them. And I actually really enjoyed it. So if you come across it, check it out. And that's that for this review. Very anticlimactic. So the moral of the story, pay attention to your kids. Horror movies actually taught me something this week. I'm getting out of here. Leave me some comments down below and let me know if by any chance any of you have ever seen that movie. And then, if you have, let me know what you thought of it and tell me if you got the same thing out of this movie that I did. I'm getting out of here. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that bell. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. And thank you for watching, folks. Later. Oh, you saw it? Where did you see it? Bullshit.